Hello, so today's video is a super simple one. I just wanted to use up some of my scrap yarn, and I had a couple of squares that I'd already made a while ago. So I'm just going to turn these two simple squares into a drawstring bag, so they've become something useful that I can use. So my squares I have made using a 4mm hook. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows on each of these squares. But you can make them any size you like. I feel like these are big enough. I'm going to add some on there to make it into a drawstring, so that will make it a nice size. So I've not done this before, but I think it'll be quite simple, so let's get started. I forgot to mention that the yarn I'm using is DK yarn as well, so I'm using up all my scraps. I have buckets of it. So starting in a corner, any corner, I'm going to put my hook, or put my squares back to back. I'm going to put my hook through the back loop only of a corner, and then the back loop only of the opposite corner. So when I say back loop, if I turn it around that way, it is the back loop. And I'm going to do a simple UK double, US single stitch all the way along. So going into the back loop of each side, I'm going to do this all the way round for just 3 sides. I do this in a lot of my bags as I join. Let me do a few more and I can show you how it looks. I really like this joining method. It feels secure and it gives you a little border, which I quite like, especially if you're using lots of colours like this. I do love a scrap yarn project. They always turn out more beautiful, I think, than planned projects. I don't think too hard about what colours I'm going to use. I just use them up and I think they end up looking really pretty. Okay, so I've done long enough to show you that leaves like a raised border around, which looks really neat and secure. So I'm going to continue around all 3 sides, leaving the top open. As I was going around the corner, I've literally gone just 1 into each stitch, and you can see how that's made it a nice smooth rounded corner there. So I'm just going to keep going around the next 2 sides. So I've gone around all 3 sides and it's given it this lovely rounded corner, and there's something about attaching squares together that just feels really good. It feels really sturdy and lovely. It's becoming something. I think that's what I like about it. It's gone from just being squares to actually becoming something. So I'm going to cut and weave in my ends, and then I'm going to start going around the top here. So I shall cut and weave my ends and come back to you in a second. Okay, so now I'm going to start going around the top of my bag. I think what I want to do is 4 more rows, but I'm going to judge it as I go. As I said, I've not actually made one of these before, so I want to just see as I go. 3 might seem enough, 4 might be enough, I'm not sure. So I'm going to start in the corner. And just, I'm going to continue with the granny square stitches, so clusters of 3 in each gap. I'm just going to go around the whole thing. I'm going to do 3 rows and see how it looks, but I think 4 might be better for the size of this bag. So I'll meet up with you when I get to here and show you what I do when I get to the join. So I've made it to the seam. I'm going to do 3 into there. So that is the corner of this front one. and then I'm going to put 3 into that corner and just see how that looks. Yes, that works well. So that's, I'm going to work 1 in each corner, and I'm going to do the same when I get to this side. I've already done that corner, so I shall work 1 into that corner too. I shall continue around. So I have made it all around, and this very last stitch I've just done half a stitch because I want to change my colour to the next colour. So if I complete that stitch with the new colour and then move on to slip stitch in there, chain 2, and then working slightly back on myself into this gap here above the seam, add 2 more. That's my first one, and then I'm going to continue on around again for another row, and then another colour. I do think 4 rows actually as I'm going. We'll see, I'll come back to you at the end of this row and we'll see. I've made it to the end of that next row, and I have left my half a stitch on the hook ready to add my next colour and complete. I always find going into this first stitch tricky. Complete my row. Going back on myself into that gap there. Do another 2. You don't have to do it that way. I just like to attach my new colour that way. You can just complete your row, cut your ends, weave in your ends, and start the next row. So I'm going to do, I think I am actually going to do another 2 rows after this, so it will be 5 rows in total. I hadn't thought about doing 5 rows, but actually looking at it as I draw it in, I think it could take 5 rows. So I'm going to continue around. I've done 2 rows so far. This is the 3rd, and I'm going to do another 2 after that, and I shall come back to you once I have done 5 rows. Okay, so I've done 4 rows so far, and for this last row I did weave in my ends and just start the next row, which is so much easier. My last project I was working on just this morning was in the round, so that colour change way worked well for that. My brain was still in that, but you really don't have to. Just cut and weave in your ends and then start a new row. And as I was completing this row, I want my final row, my 5th row, to have a little bit of detail on it. I don't want it to be perfectly straight on the top. So let's just get my last colour ready. I've had a thought. As I said, I am making this up as I go, so you're seeing the cogs working here. I'm going to attach my new colour using the standing stitch method. And on my second one, so let's think, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to work back into the top of my second stitch, going through those 2, and I'm going to slip stitch. So I think this is called a pidcock stitch or pidcot stitch. I never do well with pronouncing these things, but yes, I'm going to try that for a few stitches and see how that looks. So the first one is a normal stitch, middle one, chain 3, 2, 3, go back in the top of your stitch, slip stitch 2 or 3, and then a normal stitch. Yes, I like that because it gives it a little decorative top. Let's do a few more and see how it looks. Normal stitch, the middle stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, go back into the top of your stitch, slip stitch through, normal stitch, normal stitch, middle stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, back through, slip stitch. You don't have to do this at all, you could just leave it plain, but I've really fancied have a going. Yes, I think that's going to look cute. Can you see how that's, each one's got a little bobble on top, so when it's drawn together I think it will just create a little fairy detail. This is quite a sort of fairy pixie colours, woodland little bag. I just wanted to experiment really and try adding that detail, and I like it. So I will continue around and come back to you when I get to the end of this bobbly row. Here we have our 5 rows with our cute bobbly top. It does flare out slightly as it goes up, but I think that's okay because it's going to be drawstring. And as I said, I didn't want the top to be straight because if you draw it in, it kind of looks leafy, I suppose. So now I'm going to make a drawstring. I think this needs to be thicker than just a chain because this is quite a large sized bag. But if you're just in a little one, you could just do a simple chain and use that as the drawstring. But I'm going to make a iCord for this one. So let me just go pick a colour to make the iCord with. Okay, so to make an iCord, I have attached my yarn to my hook. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Working it back into the second chain, I'm going to pull through. So I have 2 on my hook and I'm leaving them both on the hook. Going back into the first chain, pull through, and now you have 3 on your hook. Now this first bit is the trickiest bit right at the beginning, but if you make it so your loops are a little bit loose on your hook, you can slide your hook out of the first 2, squeezing with your thumb and finger to hold it all in place, and then very gently loop through the first one, keeping this loop now on your hook, going through the second one, yarn over, pull through, and have 2 loops on your hook, go through the third one, pull through, you have 3 loops on your hook. We're just going to repeat that over and over, so holding firm your piece of work, let the first 2 loops pop off, pull through the first one, go through the second, you have 2 loops on your hook, go through the third, pull through 3 loops on your hook, pinch a bit further up, release the first 2 loops, pull through, and that one as I pull to tighten, so do be careful because it's easy to lose your loops. 1, 2, 3. You don't want to lose your loops. 1, 2, ooh, let's see, it nearly went there. 3. So as you go along and that gets longer, it becomes like a tube, and it's perfect to use as a tie. I use these a lot to do drawstrings or to hang things. They're just a really handy, easy way, and they're quite fun to do once you get going as well. So I'm going to continue along until it is just longer, so if it went all the way around and then just a little bit longer than the length of this, if that makes sense. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so it's long enough now to go all the way through and come out the front. It's a little bit extra. So I'm going to pull through all three, chain one, and pull that through. Now I can weave in this end, and then I'm going to start threading it through the top of the bag. Okay, so to weave it in, I'm going to weave it into the spaces on the third row up. So there's 2 rows above it. So coming from the outside, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and I'm going to go into these spaces. So that's going to be my end that's sticking out the front here. So I'm going to take my other end and I'm literally going to weave it in and out of each space until I get to the 1, 2, 3, 4th space here. Start to pull that through. So I shall continue round and show you what that looks like once I've got round to the last one. So I've pulled it through all of those, you can see it weaving in and out there. And I'm going to pull it tight and see how that looks. Tie a bow. That's nice, it's not too long, gives me enough to tie a bow. And draws it in. How cute is that? Little drawstring bag. I might use this to keep my tarot cards in. And it's got that little cute bobbly effect on the top there. And then it's easy to just... You could make 2 of these and thread them so they come out the sides and pull them this way. That's another method. But I just wanted to make the one today. Oops. And they're just long enough to do a little bow when it's open too. And there you have a really sweet little drawstring bag made of scraps. And these 2 squares that I've had lying around for ages, so it's nice to finally use them up. That's so cute. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was a bit haphazard. Sometimes I like to just make things and experiment, and it's quite nice to show you my method as I go along. So there we have it. So yeah, follow along and there'll be a new tutorial next week. See you soon, guys.